That has to be measurable, empirical, and objectable, right? But how do we measure something that's subjective? So that's very difficult to measure using science. If you think about it, we are collectors of experiences as human beings. We collect as many experiences as we can before we pass away, before we leave this earth. We remember birthday parties, anniversaries, we celebrate graduation. This is an experience. Yeah. This is called normal aging for some. This might be called cognitive decline for others. But as we get older, our brains starts to develop wear and tear. Even though our bodies are living longer than previous generations. We are living longer than our great-grandparents. But what's the use of having a longer living body when your brain is not keeping up with your bodies? It's almost like an empty vessel.
And there's something you gotta do around data is to learn. Because data is not hard, but it has to be learned if you want to practice it. And that's my first major advice. As you step into data, as you embrace this digital transformation world, like, oh yeah, so get ready. You enter a state of mind where every day from now on, you will have new questions to ask. You will have new whys to ask. And this is scary. This will be scary for you. This will be scary for your employees and your peers. When you think about data, data is absolutely everything. And the first mistake that people do when they start is like, oh no, data, it's like numbers, like the revenue or the profitability. No, you gotta start to say data is everything.
People talk about every type of technology. You want to go bigger, what can affect everyone, whatever industry, whatever country you are. The only way to do that is start from the very, very, very beginning about something that governs everything, but not what everyone thinks about. That is accelerating rate of change. Now you may hear about this if you're interested in the subject, accelerating rate of technology, but where did it originate? And to see how unchangeable this is, one has to go back to the very, very beginning. Because people know about it, but they don't really understand the accelerating rate of change. Are you acceleration aware? We have already had the actual trend up here. Why wouldn't we have this much more? Even though that's how much more prosperity would occur. You know, we are so much fortunate than our ancestors to live here. Our ancestors lived over here and here. You know, they had difficult life, poverty, and so forth. And to show how steep this is, we have the same chart extending more than 600 years back. We just started 1500 because that's what it is. If you start this, the previous chart was here, now we just extend that way. There's no change. No progress until 1500 AD slowly, and this is trajectory on. And this much has already happened, only this much is prediction. Why will it change now that we are over here? That's accelerating rate of economic growth. It's not just 3% a year, it's compounding, it's that it's going to a fast rate. The units are rising, despite consolidation of units. What do I mean by consolidation of units? So in 1980s, people bought things like this, right? All these things people bought, all of which are now in this telephone. All these heavy, big things fit in a phone that you keep upgrading. So many units became one unit, even though number of units are rising very quickly.
Play is part of human creativity, and we love to play. In fact, if we're all work and no play, we're going to burn out. So we all have to designate a certain amount of our day to things that are not revenue stream oriented. Well, the word spec is to see. Specare, to see. We see on a Roman scale, massive public games. And they were part of the state apparatus. Rome didn't charge for their games. It was part of the public taxes went to pay for these games. American television today is spectacle. But instead of people going to a place like this that could seat 80,000 people, it came into everybody's houses.
But how do you take that electronic mail, one copy, and have it move around and only split and only get distributed at the last minute so that you don't have 100 or 1,000 different copies of the same email? You have a very small number, and they move through a network, only splitting apart to be distributed to one another at the last moment. So I'm the guy that did that. I'm the guy that made the mail list possible. I'm the guy that also made it possible for you to get spam in your email. This is one example of a bank of computers, or bank of calculators, that was run in the United Kingdom, in the UK, at Bletchley Park. And this was the code-breaking computer. This was the one that was used by the English and the Allies to break the German military codes, the Enigma codes. Breaking rules. Wow. People, for example, how many people you hear about are Silicon Valley success stories? They started their companies and so on. 1 out of 10 startup companies, since we began this, 1 lasts longer than 3 years. Wow. Of those companies.
And what we're noticing here, and at least for the US, when people create especially business content, audiences tend to forget 90% of that content after 48 hours. I'm not so worried from a cognitive neuroscience perspective how much the brain forgets. What we want to ask is a different question: what if you could control the little that the brain remembers? What if you were to be in charge of that small percentage that tends to stay in the brain over time? Yeah, so we can't just all of a sudden think, oh, just because I created this amazing piece of content, people are going to pay attention. You already have to have additional habits to extract extra attention. To make something memorable, that means you have to kick it up a notch even more. And even then, you still have to do something extra to make sure that the brain decides or makes a decision in some way.
Here's a view of 60 seconds in the United States online from about a year ago. So I should update the slide, but it's only gotten worse. If you can't read it, it's got like 70 new domains registered every 60 seconds, 72 hours of video uploaded into YouTube every 60 seconds, 571 new websites created every 60 seconds in the United States, 204 million emails every 60 seconds in the United States, blah, 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 blah. How is your brand, your idea, your genius, your moment gonna matter in that world? A brand is a promise delivered and measured. And to do that, you have to have a visionary promise and extraordinary delivery and consistent measurement. And the work of building brands is around those 3 things. To stand in love is to stand in front or with the person you love, for them, to go through life with them and for them as an act, in an act of love, because love is an action. It's not an idea. And I will say that the concept of brand that I work with is to stand in love with your brand. You don't just come up with a tagline. or an ad or a position statement.
We're putting on a show, and that's how we think about each person we hire. As we say, Cinderella cannot have a tattoo on her neck. Mickey can't smoke cigarettes while he's talking to your kids, and we have a very clear role in the show. We train people better than anywhere else in the world. We train them, then we test them to make sure the training took place, and then we enforce the training. And that's the three things you got to do. A lot of people train, but they don't test, and they don't enforce it. I think we create a better culture. We treat our people very respectfully. We create a culture where everybody matters and they know they matter. We create a culture where people wake up in the morning and they're excited to come to work instead of coming just for a paycheck.
Whenever you launch a new venture, you have to have some sort of differentiation, something that makes you different from everybody else. And then secondly, you have to have really good timing. In a culture that developed in Silicon Valley, a culture that developed around the notion of reinvesting capital, reinvesting both financial capital and intellectual capital.
For the most part, success in business, success in entrepreneurship has to do with being better at executing than anybody else, rather than it being about the idea. Or as I like to say, ideas are cheap, execution is hard.
Human beings are innovative people, innovative beings from nature, forever actually. We learn how to change, our hands were changed and molded so that we can get a stone and start doing things with it so we can plant. Then we learned to plant and put everything in vases so that we could transport everything and then we didn't have to live in caves anymore, change around. So we are innovative people.
Tivemos uma aula com o Pauli. Saímos do Pauli, fomos conhecer o WishTrip, que é onde tem a sede da Wish, da Rede Globo, aqui no Vale. E aí a gente falou com o professor Gutierrez, falou pra gente sobre Big Data. Depois veio o professor Kaji falando exponencial e a parte econômica do impacto das inovações no mundo. Chegou a gosto.